Welcome. Before we dive into this chilling story, tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, because a lot of work went into uncovering the real events and secrets behind one of America's most mysterious mansions. The Winchester House isn't just a historical building, it's a labyrinth of dark legends, unexplained deaths, and architectural oddities that seem to defy reason, all tied to the obsession of one woman determined to escape a curse. Sarah Winchester's life was one marked by tragedy from an early age, and it set the stage for the obsession that would later define her existence. Born in 1839 into the wealthy Winchester family, she married William Wirt Winchester, the heir to the Winchester repeating arms fortune. At first glance, her life appeared charmed. She was part of one of America's wealthiest families, living with comfort and privilege. But happiness proved fleeting. Sarah and William's daughter, Annie, died as an infant, a loss that shattered the family. This was only the beginning of the misfortunes that would haunt her. William himself succumbed to tuberculosis in 1881, leaving Sarah a widow at just 41, and inheriting not only immense wealth, but a sprawling mansion in New Haven, Connecticut, along with the burden of the Winchester fortune. The deaths in her immediate family, particularly those of her husband and daughter, profoundly affected her mental and emotional state. Friends and relatives noted a change in her demeanor, describing her as increasingly withdrawn and consumed by grief. But what compounded her distress was the growing awareness of the Winchester rifle's deadly reputation. The weapons her husband's company manufactured were implicated in countless deaths, and some contemporaries claimed she feared that the spirits of those killed by the rifles were seeking vengeance. Although historians debate how much of this was superstition and how much genuine paranoia, it is clear that Sarah believed she was somehow cursed or marked by the violent legacy of her family's business. After William's death, Sarah moved to California, taking up residence in San Jose, where she would begin the construction of what would become the infamous Winchester House. It was during this period that reports suggest she consulted mediums and spiritual advisors, seeking guidance on how to appease the spirits she believed haunted her. Some accounts describe her as obsessively cautious, spending hours speaking to seers and conducting rituals designed to protect her from harm. She reportedly received advice that she must continually build on her house to keep the spirits at bay, and that the construction itself would prevent them from harming her. This blend of grief, guilt, and superstition became the driving force behind her architectural decisions, transforming the home into a labyrinthine structure unlike any other. The psychological toll of losing her family, combined with the pressures of immense wealth and public scrutiny, fueled Sarah's relentless work on the mansion. Rooms were added seemingly at random, staircases led nowhere, doors opened into walls, and hallways twisted in impossible ways. Each addition was believed to thwart or confuse the spirits she feared, and she reportedly never ceased building, day or night, until her death. Historians have noted that her behavior might also reflect symptoms of anxiety, depression, or obsessive-compulsive tendencies, magnified by the cultural and spiritual beliefs of the era. Whatever the exact cause, it was clear that her grief over the deaths of her daughter and husband was never resolved, and became a central element in her life choices. Visitors to the mansion after Sarah's death noted a palpable sense of melancholy and an atmosphere steeped in the weight of loss. Every room and corridor carried the story of a woman trying to reconcile with tragedy she could neither control nor undo. Her life, defined by personal loss and the shadow of the deaths caused indirectly by her family's fortune, left an indelible mark on the house she continuously expanded. Sarah Winchester's experience is a powerful reminder of how grief and trauma can shape not only a person's actions, but also the spaces they inhabit, leaving behind a legacy that blends history, psychology, and legend into a story that continues to captivate the world. The notion of a curse surrounding the Winchester family and their firearms was one of the most pervasive elements of Sarah Winchester's story, and it began to take hold in the years following the deaths of her husband and child. It was said that she believed the spirits of those who had been killed by Winchester rifles were restless, angry, and seeking revenge. The sheer number of deaths associated with the weapons, countless homicides, accidental shootings, and battlefield casualties weighed heavily on her conscience, fueling a growing sense of fear and superstition. People close to her noticed that she spoke often of spirits and restless souls, claiming that they haunted her dreams and, in some accounts, appeared to her during waking hours. This fear of supernatural retribution seemed to dominate her thoughts and decisions, shaping the way she approached her daily life and, most famously, her home. According to contemporary accounts and later legends, Sarah began consulting mediums and spiritual advisors to communicate with the dead. These seers reportedly warned her that the spirits of the victims would not leave her alone, and that her only protection was to continue building her home without end. This advice coincided with her own belief that construction itself could ward off the malevolent entities. Each new addition to the house, every staircase, corridor, or room, was thought to confuse, trap, or appease the spirits she feared. In her mind, the house became both a sanctuary and a labyrinth, a protective maze designed to keep the supernatural forces at bay. It was not merely architecture, it was a spiritual shield. The curse, as Sarah perceived it, extended beyond her immediate home and family. She reportedly believed that anyone who mocked or doubted the spirit's existence could be subject to misfortune. Stories circulated of workers falling ill or meeting accidents while constructing the house, which some attributed to the restless spirits exacting their vengeance. Sarah herself rarely ventured outside, and when she did, she reportedly insisted on elaborate rituals and precautions, such as carrying charms, consulting the spirits for permission, and performing small ceremonies to protect herself. Her fear was not limited to distant consequences. It was intimate and immediate, influencing every aspect of her day-to-day life. Over time, the legend of the curse began to intertwine with the architectural oddities of the mansion. Rooms were built without purpose, staircases led to ceilings, doors opened into walls, and windows looked out onto other rooms rather than the outside world. Historians and tour guides have suggested that many of these features were intended to confuse the spirits, making it impossible for them to find her. Some floors contained trapdoors, while others had hidden passages. Even today, visitors to the Winchester House remark on the disorienting layout, unaware that the original purpose may have been rooted in a deep fear of supernatural retribution. The house itself became a physical manifestation of the curse, a structure built not for comfort, but for protection against forces beyond human comprehension. The stories of ghostly apparitions began almost immediately. servants, and construction workers claimed to see figures moving through empty hallways, hear whispers in rooms with locked doors, or feel sudden chills in spaces where no draft could explain them. One account tells of a worker who saw a woman in white walking through a corridor, only to disappear when approached. Another describes unexplained footsteps and faint cries echoing through the halls late at night. While skeptics dismissed these reports as superstition or the product of imagination, the frequency and consistency of the stories contributed to the legend of the curse and reinforced Sarah Winchester's belief that her home was under siege by the dead. Even after her death in 1922, the notion of a curse persisted. Visitors and paranormal investigators have reported strange occurrences within the house: cold spots, flickering lights, disembodied voices, and moving objects. These phenomena are often linked back to the idea that Sarah was cursed, and that the restless spirits of those affected by Winchester rifles continue to linger. The curse became a lens through which every unexplained event was interpreted, further cementing the house's reputation as a place haunted by grief, guilt, and vengeance. Ultimately, the curse was not just a supernatural legend. It was a reflection of Sarah Winchester's own psyche and the weight of the deaths connected to her family's fortune. Her fears, grief, and obsessive belief in the spirit's retribution influenced the construction of one of the most unique and mysterious homes in America. What may appear to outsiders as eccentricity or madness was deeply entwined with the cultural and spiritual beliefs of the time, as well as her personal experience of trauma and loss. In this way, the curse became inseparable from both Sarah's life and the mansion itself, creating a story that blends historical fact with legend, sorrow with obsession, and the tangible with the unexplainable. The construction of the Winchester House was unlike anything anyone had ever seen, a sprawling, labyrinthine complex that grew continuously for decades under Sarah Winchester's obsessive guidance. Unlike ordinary homes, which were designed for comfort, functionality, or aesthetic appeal, this mansion seemed to follow no logical plan. Rooms were added seemingly at random, hallways led to walls, staircases climbed into ceilings, and doors opened into empty spaces or dropped down to lower floors. It was as though the very structure of the house had been dictated not by architectural principles, but by a fear that could not be measured or reasoned. Builders and carpenters who worked on the mansion reported that Sarah was meticulous in her instructions, insisting on changes and additions late at night, often revising floor plans with the guidance of spiritual advisors who claimed to communicate with the dead. Construction never ceased. For more than 30 years, Sarah oversaw constant building, expansion, and renovation. She lived in a small section of the house, while the rest remained under continual construction, and she rarely left the property. Workers described seeing her wandering through unfinished hallways, pointing to spaces that would later become rooms, staircases, or towers. Some of these features served no practical purpose whatsoever, such as staircases that led to nowhere or doors that opened into walls. Historians suggest that these oddities were deliberate, intended to confuse or trap the spirits she believed haunted her. Others speculate that her actions reflected the obsessive grief and trauma she carried after the deaths of her husband and child, a compulsive need to control her environment as a way of protecting herself from unseen forces. The design of the house was also full of symbols and patterns that some believed were spiritually significant. Certain rooms were said to be built in multiples of 13, a number long associated with superstition and mystery. Windows were placed in peculiar locations, sometimes facing into other rooms rather than outward, creating strange lines of sight. Trapdoors and hidden panels added to the sense of disorientation, while winding hallways and dead-end corridors made the mansion feel more like a maze than a residence. Every floor, every wing, every addition seemed to follow a logic that only Sarah could understand, a logic that was part architectural, part spiritual, and part psychological. Visitors and later historians noted that the more time one spent inside, the more the house seemed to defy reason. It was easy to get lost, to feel that the mansion itself was alive, guiding and manipulating movement through its endless corridors. Workers who labored on the house reported strange occurrences that reinforced the eerie reputation of the mansion. Some claimed to see ghostly figures in the hallways, hear doors creaking or footsteps echoing when no one else was present, or feel sudden drops in temperature in rooms that had no drafts. Others described tools and materials disappearing or moving inexplicably. Many of these accounts were dismissed as superstition, stress, or imagination, but the frequency of reports contributed to the legend of the house and the curse that Sarah believed she was attempting to escape. Even those who doubted the supernatural were often unnerved by the endless, disorienting construction, which seemed to twist and turn in ways that made rational navigation nearly impossible. The mansion's construction was also a reflection of Sarah's immense wealth, which allowed her to build without restraint. Unlike ordinary homeowners, she was not constrained by budget or necessity. She could hire an army of carpenters, masons, and laborers to work around the clock. Entire wings were added without apparent planning, and the house grew organically, almost as if it had a will of its own. Some rooms were lavish, decorated with fine woodwork and intricate moldings, while others were simple and utilitarian, containing nothing but bare walls and floors. This contrast added to the sense of unpredictability and disorientation, further reinforcing the legend of a house that was not simply a home, but a fortress against unseen forces. Historians and architects have attempted to interpret the logic behind the mansion, but many conclude that there was none, at least, none that could be understood through conventional reasoning. Each element of the house, from staircases to windows to hidden rooms, seems tied to Sarah's psychological state and her fear of spiritual retribution. The house became a physical manifestation of grief, guilt, and obsession, as well as a monument to one woman's belief that constant construction could keep death and misfortune at bay. Over time, the mansion became famous not only for its size, but for its strangeness. Visitors today are often disoriented, following staircases that lead to nowhere and wandering through doors that open into walls, experiencing firsthand the maze that Sarah built to confuse spirits she believed were intent on her destruction. The house's endless construction, bizarre features, and haunting aura made it more than architecture. It became a symbol of obsession, grief, and the supernatural, a lasting testament to the mind of a woman haunted by both personal tragedy and the fear of the curse she carried with her every day of her life. The Winchester House quickly became infamous for the strange occurrences reported within its walls, and these reports began almost as soon as construction started. Workers and visitors alike told stories of ghostly apparitions moving through hallways, the sounds of footsteps echoing in empty rooms, and doors opening and closing by themselves. Some claimed to see fleeting shadows that seemed to move independently, while others described cold drafts in areas of the house that had no logical explanation. These reports only fueled Sarah Winchester's conviction that the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles were restless, and that her continuous building efforts were the only way to keep them appeased. It was not merely hearsay. Even family, friends, and clergy who visited the property recounted feelings of unease, sudden chills, and the sensation that they were being watched, though no one could pinpoint why. Visitors often described encountering unexplained phenomena that defied reason. Lights would flicker or extinguish without cause, and objects appeared to move on their own. In one account, a group of workers reported that a ladder they had left in a hallway disappeared, only to be found hours later in a completely different part of the mansion. In another, servants claimed that furniture shifted overnight, seemingly rearranged by invisible hands. These incidents were not isolated but recurring patterns, adding to the growing legend that the house was haunted by more than mere memories. Even today, guides on tours through the mansion recount the same eerie sensations, with some visitors reporting sudden temperature drops, unexplained sounds, and a persistent feeling of being observed. Among the most chilling phenomena were the apparitions themselves. Many reported seeing a woman in white wandering the halls, sometimes only briefly, sometimes lingering long enough to evoke a sense of dread. Some described hearing whispered voices calling their names, yet when they turned to look, no one was there. Children in the household were particularly sensitive to these experiences, often claiming to see figures moving at the corners of their vision or to hear crying in empty rooms. Workers noted that the manifestations seemed most active in areas that were under construction or recently completed, suggesting a connection between the house's continual building and the spiritual unrest within. Accounts of ghostly activity were so frequent that some historians suggest that the house itself became a conduit for unexplained phenomena. The labyrinthine architecture, with its endless hallways, staircases leading to nowhere, and hidden rooms, may have amplified the psychological effects on those inside, making ordinary noises and shadows seem otherworldly. Yet, the consistency of reports across decades, from construction workers in the late 19th century to visitors in the 20th and 21st centuries, suggests that there was more than imagination at work. Witnesses often described similar experiences: sudden chills, unexplainable noises, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched, leading many to conclude that the house carried a presence of its own, one tied to Sarah Winchester's fears and the spirits she believed she had angered. Some paranormal investigators have attempted to document the phenomena using modern technology, and while skeptics often attribute these events to old plumbing, structural settling, or drafts, the sheer volume of reports makes simple explanations difficult. Temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic anomalies, and unexpected movements of objects have all been recorded in areas of the mansion, reinforcing the idea that something unusual continues to linger there. Visitors have also reported seeing orbs of light, shadow figures, and hearing unexplained voices, lending credence to the stories passed down over generations. Sarah Winchester herself seemed to acknowledge these occurrences, though in subtle ways. she reportedly conducted rituals and consulted mediums to understand the activity, believing that her house was a refuge not only from the spirits themselves, but from the consequences of ignoring them. In essence, every strange event within the mansion served as confirmation for her belief that she was surrounded by the restless dead. She adjusted construction schedules, added rooms, and altered layouts in response to perceived spiritual activity, further intertwining the house's physical complexity with its supernatural reputation. The legacy of these reports has endured long after Sarah's death. Tourists and historians alike are drawn to the Winchester House not only for its architecture, but for its reputation as one of the most haunted homes in America. Even in contemporary visits, people describe sensations of unease, fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures, and the inexplicable sense that the house is alive. Many guides recount first-hand experiences, emphasizing that the phenomena are subtle yet pervasive. A hum of activity beneath the surface of everyday life, just as Sarah herself had experienced. Ultimately, the strange occurrences within the Winchester House are inseparable from the legend of Sarah Winchester and her obsession with the spirits she feared. They are not only a testament to the eerie and unpredictable nature of the mansion itself, but also a reflection of the grief, guilt, and superstition that guided its construction. The ghost sightings, mysterious sounds, and unexplained movements have become a permanent part of the story, ensuring that the house remains a symbol of both architectural wonder and enduring supernatural intrigue. It is this combination of historical fact and eerie legend that continues to draw fascination, making the Winchester House not merely a building, but a living testament to the dark mysteries that shaped its creation. The legacy of the Winchester House has endured far beyond Sarah Winchester's death, becoming one of the most enduring symbols of mystery, obsession, and the supernatural in America. Even today, the mansion is renowned not only for its sprawling architecture and unusual design, but for the stories, legends, and unexplained phenomena that continue to surround it. Historians, architects, paranormal investigators, and tourists alike are drawn to the house, eager to explore the labyrinthine hallways, the staircases that lead nowhere, the doors that open into walls, and the countless hidden rooms that seem to defy logic. Every twist and turn of the house seems to tell a story of grief, fear, and the obsessive measures one woman took to confront forces she believed were beyond her control. The Winchester House is often viewed as a reflection of Sarah Winchester herself, a woman whose life was defined by tragedy, whose mind was consumed by guilt, and whose actions were shaped by both grief and superstition. Her obsession with continuing construction until her death created not just a residence, but a sprawling monument to her fears and beliefs. Today, the house stands as a testament to that obsession, a tangible reminder of the extremes to which fear and grief can drive a person. The architecture is both a puzzle and a narrative, telling the story of a woman who sought to outwit unseen forces, to find safety in motion, and to leave a mark on the world that would endure long after her passing. Beyond its architectural significance, the mansion has become a cornerstone of paranormal legend. Countless visitors have reported experiencing strange sensations inside the house. Sudden chills, unexplained noises, the sense of being watched, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures. Paranormal investigators have documented temperature anomalies, electromagnetic disturbances, and other unexplained phenomena that lend credibility to the stories passed down over the decades. These experiences have cemented the Winchester House as a cultural icon in the world of the supernatural, a place where the boundaries between history, psychology, and legend blur into one enduring mystery. The house also serves as a window into the social and cultural context of the time. Sarah Winchester's belief in spirits and the consequences of her family's weapons reflects broader 19th century attitudes toward death, superstition, and the afterlife. Her consultations with mediums and spiritual advisors were not unusual for someone of her social standing, but her obsessive response, the continuous, unending construction of a massive and nonsensical mansion, was extraordinary. This combination of personal tragedy and cultural context makes the Winchester House more than a haunted location. It is a living record of the interplay between wealth, grief, belief, and human psychology. Over the years, the mansion has attracted tourists from around the world, eager to witness its oddities firsthand. Guides lead visitors through its dizzying corridors, pointing out the staircases that rise into ceilings, the doors that open to nothing, and the hidden rooms that were never intended for human habitation. Many guests leave with a sense of awe and unease, impressed not only by the sheer scale of the construction, but by the thought that this home was shaped by a woman confronting forces she believed were beyond her understanding. It is this blend of human drama, historical tragedy, and supernatural legend that keeps people fascinated, ensuring the mansion's place in the popular imagination for generations. In literature, media, and popular culture, the Winchester House has become synonymous with obsession and the supernatural. It has inspired books, documentaries, television programs, and countless ghost hunting expeditions. Its story is frequently told not merely as a historical curiosity, but as a cautionary tale about grief, fear, and the lengths to which a human mind will go to seek control in a world that seems chaotic and threatening. The house has become a symbol of the intersection between human ingenuity and human vulnerability, demonstrating how architecture can both protect and entrap, comfort and terrify. Ultimately, the legacy of the Winchester House is inseparable from the life of Sarah Winchester and the tragic circumstances that shaped her existence. The mansion embodies the psychological, emotional, and spiritual challenges she faced, serving as both a literal and figurative labyrinth of her fears. Its continued fascination is a testament to the enduring human interest in mystery, the supernatural, and the unexplained, drawing new generations of visitors, historians, and storytellers to its doors. In this way, the Winchester House transcends its physical presence as a building and becomes a cultural and historical touchstone, a haunting monument to one woman's extraordinary life and the dark secrets that have fascinated the world for more than a century.